Hello, welcome to Planty Planty Zoo Zoo. That is the name of this podcast and the name of our hypothetical zoo/botanical gardens. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Connor, and we're the hosts of this wonderful podcast journey.
So I'm Stephanie. I'm a freelance environmental communicator. So I just spend a lot of time talking about nature and all the cool things in it and things that I like. I have, if it matters, a degree in biosciences and a master's in tropical forest ecology because I really love rainforests. And then I'm here with Connor.
I work at Bristol Zoo, so I do my own kind of environmental communications, but I do that through Wild Place Project, which is where I have to get up and go to work every day, and it means...
Wow.
Wow, does I sound bitter about that at all?
Felt like a dig. He leaves me behind. I'm still in my pyjamas, having a cup of tea, in bed.
Yeah, I don't get to just do my communications from the sofa wrapped up in a blanket. I have to go out in the cold, in the wind and the snow. But I actually get to have some amazing animals right in front of me while I talk about them. So it's not all bad weather.
I have some amazing plants around me that I've cultivated myself. I think we're up to 52 now.
Yeah,
so
that sounds about right, it does.
I may not work at a botanical garden, but I'm working hard on constructing my own. Which brings us to the premise of this podcast. So we have very strong interest in the environment. Mine is mostly sort of botany, especially tropical botany, but any kinds of plants. I really love plants. Connor's mad about animals. So we were like, we talk about it so much with each other, we might as well record it. And then we came up with some really cool concepts and ideas for how we're going to get people interested in it.
Yeah, so the idea behind this podcast is that we are both the curators of our own visitor attraction, that is both a botanical garden and zoological collection as well. So that we are the hypothetical owners of Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, which is our own collection. And it was geniusly named by Stephanie as it came to her basically in a dream one night.
It was one of my many insomnia-ridden nights. I was like 3 a.m. I'd been awake for about 3 hours and I was coming up with names. Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, depressingly, was the best one. The other one was, there's plenty more fish in the zoo. And like the Plantastic Zoo, was it? I don't know. Anyway, basically, we're not very good at naming things, so we're going Planty Planty Zoo Zoo. And we're thrilled and we're so excited. And yeah, so basically each week, me and Connor, I'm going to pick one plant, species or genus or something, and Connor's going to pick one animal that he wants in the zoo. So, and then we're basically going to chat about what our zoo's like. So we're building a zoo and botanical gardens basically. So you can listen along and listen to us create this incredible, like beautiful environmental zoo-y, conservation-y, planty thing. And yeah, basically just listen and you'll figure it out.
And each week we'll be talking about why we've chosen a certain species or genus or whatever, a little bit about maybe how they're held in other collections, if they are, and why we think they're quite important and maybe might need conservation and conserving as well, because I imagine a lot of the things we'll be choosing are probably not doing too great around the world.
So that's essentially all we have to say. We'll probably be inserting a jingle here.
So I think we should probably get started with our first episode. We hope you enjoy.
So, who should go first?
I want me to.
Okay. Connor's going first.
But if you'd like to go first, feel free.
No, you go.
Cool.
Honestly.
Because I'm starting with a game. Because I'm going to make you guess what I've chosen.
Okay.
And so, because of your incessant prying earlier, we've worked out that it's not a mammal, which you were surprised about. I'm going to give you 4 species that are in this family, and you've got to tell me what type of animals they are.
Okay, go.
So if I say that there's a colourful puffleg...
Is it a bird?
It is. There's a sparkling violet ear.
Is it a hummingbird?
I've got 2 more, Stephanie. Yes, it's a hummingbird.
Yes! I'm an animal lady. I know all about animals.
There's also green-tailed train bearer, and my favourite potentially, a fire-throated metal tail.
Oh, I would have got it from fire-throated.
Yeah. So we're talking about hummingbirds.
Yes!
And it feels like it might be a rogue one to start off a zoo with, because you go, hang on, think of the zoo, you don't necessarily think of one of the smallest animals you've ever seen. You know,
true.
It might feel a bit rogue, but I went for this one specifically for our first episode because hummingbirds are a perfect kind of combination of animal and plant because they are really interlinked with the plants and the ecosystems that they kind of are in.
That's true. Yeah.
So I've been a clever cookie, and so. Like I said, we'll talk about a little bit about kind of them at a wider level first. So they're members of the family Trochilidae, and all hummingbirds are native to the Americas. So both North and South. So you'll find them in the USA, as well as kind of lots of countries around Central and South America as well.
I've seen them in the wild, so
I had a feeling you would have. I'm absolutely devastated.
when I was a research assistant in Peru in the Amazon rainforest, they actually really liked the plants that were by the field station. So
Did you know what species you saw?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Pretty though.
there's actually about 361 species that you could have seen.
Probably did.
Largest being the giant hummingbird, which is 23 centimetres long, so still pretty teeny. The smallest though, the bee hummingbird, only about 5 centimetres long.
Oh God, I want that. Imagine if they were flying around here right now.
Honestly, absolutely tiny.
Yeah,
Adorable.
I love them.
Do you know why they're called hummingbirds?
Their wings go so fast that it makes a humming sound.
Absolutely. Do you know how fast their wings go?
1,000 flaps second.
No, it's going to sound a lot less impressive now you said that. It's about 80 flaps or 88 flaps per second for kind of the fastest flappers. For the slowest, there's about 20 flaps.
I could probably only do 2 a second, so it's still impressive.
Exactly. And that one with the 88 per second was a purple-throated wood star. I'm just going to keep peppering species name in because they're the most adorable names I've ever heard for anything.
I mean, I'm picturing that. Like, obviously, with a podcast, we're not showing any images. I think the names do a really good job of creating an image in your head because they're fantastic.
Yeah. And now that hovering in the flight, that kind of when they hover and they're doing their 88 flaps per second or whatever, that takes a load of energy. And so basically, they've got the highest metabolism of any animal except tiny flying insects.
Wow.
So for the kind of the highest it's been recorded, their heart beats 1,260 beats per minute.
That would feel horrible. It would feel like a panic attack.
Right, it's just like a constant panic attack. These tiny birds having constant panic attacks. But they can enter torpor overnight. So like whereas things like the bears we have at Wild Place might enter torpor over winter and just sleep for a few months, they can do it basically every night.
Wait, so are you saying they just go to sleep at night?
But no.
Same.
But as in they kind of slow themselves down. So whereas us sleeping probably wouldn't slow things down that much, they can slow from their kind of 1,260 beats to about 200 beats per minute.
Is that
overnight
to save that energy?
Basically save energy and make sure they're not using up all their kind of resources when they're not actually going to be doing an awful lot, which is really cool. And because of that kind of helps. Most animals that have a teeny tiny and have really high metabolism only last a couple of years. Most hummingbirds can survive up to about 10 to 11 years in the wild.
Oh my god.
Which is obscenely long.
So is that because of torpor?
I think it probably helps. But yeah, it's pretty incredible.
So they're going to be in your aviary, I'm guessing?
Well, we'll get on to that.
Oh, okay, I'm excited. Sorry, I'm jumping.
Because you don't find them in many zoos around the world. I'll talk about where you do find them a little bit later on. But the reason I kind of wanted to put them in was because, as I said, they've got a really good relationship with plants. So they are really helpful because they're nectarivores, which means they feed on nectar, and that's their kind of main food source because it gives them loads of sugar and gives them loads of energy to kind of manage that kind of really quick rate of flapping and flying. And so they're really useful for plants that rely on ornithophyly.
Oh, what's ornithophyly?
Which is a fancy way, a really fancy ass way of saying pollination by bird. So that's pollinators.
Ah!
So rather than having your bees or your insects coming and pollinating, your hummingbirds will do it instead. And actually, a lot of the kind of plants out in there in South America will have kind of co-adapted and co-evolved alongside hummingbirds to make sure that they're perfectly suited and attractive to hummingbirds, so they can come grab their nectar, which helps the hummingbirds, but also grab the pollen and help pollinate those plants as well. And specific plants have evolved for specific hummingbirds as well, which is completely mad. So, for example, the sword-billed hummingbird, so called because it's got a bill which is about 12 centimetres in length, which compared to its body, which is 13 to 14 centimetres, is absolutely huge. That shows really extreme coevolution with a type of passion flower. And basically the position of the pollen in that flower and the position of its kind of nectar means that it's perfectly suited for the sword-billed hummingbird and basically no other hummingbirds, which is really cool. So it's basically suited for one species and that's it.
So
and
really
nothing else can really.
So if that went extinct,
yeah, exactly.
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, so it means if one of those goes extinct, the other's in quite a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But
and then the knock-on
luckily,
effects.
the sword-billed hummingbird is least concerned, so it's not in any immediate
good.
trouble. So hopefully that flower isn't either. But other things like the giant hummingbird as well will actually alter its foraging behaviour. Because while those plants might kind of adapt and be perfectly suited for hummingbirds, other kind of animals that rely on nectar, like insects and things like that, can also try and get them. And so they will do it in a different way. So they'll often kind of just bite through the petals and try and burrow their way in, which can be really harmful to the plants. And giant hummingbirds can actually realise when these kind of nectar thieves are around, and they'll actually alter their foraging behaviour. So they will kind of move on to somewhere else and they'll forage less when they know there's kind of nectar thieves, different insects around, and things like that. And so it actually means if you introduce pests like this, or if any kind of nectar robbers move into a new area where there are giant hummingbirds, those numbers can be affected because they can't get their nectar as effectively.
Oh.
And so I think that's why I really wanted hummingbirds to be the first one, because you can show them really nicely in kind of a habitat with loads of plants. And so it's a way of kind of bringing the zoo side and the plant side together as well. But they are also just a very incredible thing to look at. Because if you've ever seen a hummingbird before, you'll know they're absolutely gorgeous. They've got these really incredible colours, often for kind of courtship. And so it's usually the males that are nice and brightly coloured. And they've got these amazing like iridescent feathers, so they can actually turn themselves so the light hits them in different ways and give off different colours to help attract those females. But they're actually also really pretty rare around the world. There's only actually 10 collections in the whole world that have hummingbirds. There's none in the UK, so if we were saying that Planty Planty Zoo Zoo is based in the UK, this would be a unique habitat.
We're the first to have hummingbirds in the UK. Congratulations to Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, first zoo hummingbirds. Definitely exists.
They're also known. They're so rare because they're pretty tricky to keep and tricky to breed.
I imagine trying to feed them, or would you do it like at butterfly houses at zoos where you have the little flowers and they got like test tubes, or they stick their proboscis.
I think that's how they do it. Yeah, I think that tends to be how they do it, and kind of the easiest way. But yeah, they're pretty tricky, and you kind of have to give them plenty of space in order to have them breed as well. But that's been done very well at the collection in Europe with the most of them. So most kind of collections have less than 10 or so hummingbirds. But Vogel's Park Walsrode in Germany, which is kind of also known as Walsrode Bird Park, has over 50 individual hummingbirds of 3 different species. And they've bred quite successfully over there, so they're doing some amazing things.
Do they have it as a walkthrough?
They don't have it as a walkthrough, so I think because they are pretty tricky, you probably wouldn't want to risk them in a walkthrough.
Or probably having seen the public in walkthroughs sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So they don't have it as a walkthrough. They've got it. There's a picture there. They've got it as a lovely kind of little.
If you want to know what that looks like, it's kind of like a shopping mall window, or like when you walk past a John Lewis and they got their display. It's like that, but for hummingbirds with rocks. And
so they've got 3 different species. They've got the green-tailed train bearer and the sparklet violeteer, but also the Amazilia hummingbird as well. And so they all look like pretty impressive species. They've got quite nice colours, but they're all least concern. And so I wanted to bring a focus that was a little bit more conservation-based as well. And me being me, I can't be decisive, so I've gone for 3 species. So I'm
Right,
immediately
yeah.
throwing out any of the rules we might have set
So
in place.
like the 3 rules we managed to agree on, and you've immediately broken. Don't worry, I did as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All of them be broken. I want to put in the Colourful Puffleg because it's an amazing name.
It's got a nice colourful puffly leg.
The mangrove hummingbird and the black inca.
I'm very excited by the mangrove hummingbird straight off the bat for our Zoo Botanical Gardens, CBG, because we can have a mangrove themed area, a whole mangrove enclosure, and there are some incredible mangrove plants. In fact, this one that I'm going to announce grows in mangroves, so we've got some overlap.
Oh my god, we've actually done something really good completely by
By
accident.
mistake, as usual, yeah.
Fantastic.
Never deliberate.
So, okay, then I'll chat about those first of all. So the mangrove hummingbird, they're actually endangered because they're endemic to Costa Rica, meaning that you won't find them anywhere else other than Costa Rica. But they're fantastic. They build these little cup nests about 2 to 3 centimetres off the water of mangroves. And they'll kind of strengthen them by wrapping them in spider silk and like leaves and grasses and things like that. Just make a little cup and then the female will just sit in it. And it's the most precious thing you've ever seen in your life.
Have you got a photo? Show me.
That is a mangrove hummingbird. So it's
like-
not sitting in a nest, but it is effectively quite a dull grey bird until you come to its head where it looks like it's wearing like teal cyan chainmail.
It literally looks like if you dipped a pigeon in teal paint and then just stuck a stupid long beak on it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, that is how you describe it if you just wanted to slag off my bird. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you very much for that.
I like pigeons.
It was also a fraction of the size of a pigeon, I will just say, because it's teeny tiny.
Yeah. If you took a tiny baby pigeon, I've not seen a baby pigeon. I've not seen a baby pigeon. Where are the baby pigeons? In the nest.
Shall I leave you to that existential crisis
Yeah.
and then I'll move on.
You carry on.
But the reason they're endangered is, surprise, surprise, because of us. Mainly everything that threatens a mangrove threatens these guys. So things like salt evaporation, shrimp farming, charcoal production, and kind of human habitation, all destroying these habitats and kind of taking them up. Climate change as well, yeah, absolutely. And even though it's actually kind of illegal to cut down mangroves in Costa Rica, it still happens and it isn't very well regulated apparently.
Oh no.
And so mangrove hummingbirds in a bit of danger.
Oh dear.
Which is why it'd be great to have them at Planty Planty Zoo Zoo.
Yeah.
Also the colourful puffleg, that one.
Wait.
Not quite as colourful as you'd imagine.
Where's its puffy legs?
It's in the adult male.
Is the red bit?
So that's his tail feathers, but its legs are these little fluffy white bits.
Oh, okay. It looks prettier from the side. Yeah, it's got like puffball, like little cotton balls stuck on the side, and those its puffy legs. Well named.
So that one is kind of found on the slopes of the Western Andes. Mainly in cloud forest you'll find it, but also the forest edges, clearings. And basically, nobody really knows much about it.
Oh.
And so there's no recordings of its vocalizations, and nobody really knows how it breeds, much like that. So it's basically a tiny, adorable thing that nobody really understands. Which is another reason.
Me! You don't agree that I'm adorable?
I just don't like you.
Wow.
And so the potential for research, if we had it in a collection, would be absolutely massive. Unfortunately, the fact that nobody really knows much about it means we actually wouldn't be able to probably get one. But we're suspending disbelief for this podcast and not actually taking into account any fact or any actual logistical concerns.
Also money, we have never-ending supply of money.
Yep, absolutely. And space, never-ending supply of space.
Yeah.
So we're doing everything that no zoo ever can do. And just
Except
kind
us.
of not going to account for any type of logical thinking.
Yeah.
That sounds quite apt for us.
I think that's how we live.
But yeah, they're also in a little bit of trouble, like everything living out in the kind of cloud forests or just forests of South America. Deforestation, things like that, kind of logging, illegal cocoa, kind of human habitation, all those kind of things threatening these habitats as well. But they have actually had a little bit of relief recently, so they are still classified as endangered, but they have had a few nature reserves actually created around the areas that they habitate in the wild. The Munchique National Natural Park, that kind of has its own population of colourful pufflegs, and Swarovski Optic actually provided funds to create the Aves mirabilis Swarovski Nature Reserve specifically for this species as well.
Why? Are they well into hummingbirds?
I think they just went into birds.
Wait, Swarovski is in the crystals?
Swarovski Optic is in the binoculars.
I thought you meant the jewellery.
Are they the same thing?
I doubt it.
Oh no, they're a division of the Swarovski group. But they just make binoculars.
Really? So there is Swarovski crystals and Swarovski binoculars. Can you get Swarovski embedded binoculars? I would like some.
Can you say binoculars properly?
Binoculars. You say it.
Binoculars.
Binoculars. Okay. No.
And finally, the black inca, which is only vulnerable, so it's doing a little bit better. It's estimated kind of somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000, whereas the others are less than 1,000 each estimated. But they're endemic to Colombia. And these ones I wanted to go for because they're specifically not very colourful.
Gorgeous.
They've got this lovely black plumage with a kind of a white kind of side of the neck and some lovely blue feathers right at the top of their wings. I mean, they're absolutely stunning.
It's like an emo hummingbird.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice teenager hummingbird just going through something.
It's taking me back to 2010.
These ones, endemic to Colombia, so you'll only find them there. But they also, when they feed, they do something called trap lining, which is basically they have a circuit of plants they really like, and they'll just go back and check them every now and then. Called trap lining because it's like a trapper going back and checking all the things it's laid out and seeing if it's caught anything.
It's like going to your favourite shops.
Yeah, absolutely. Just doing kind of a little bit of a loop, checking for different nectar. And again, about 90% of their forest habitat in the small range of this black inca has been cleared for settlement, agriculture, and everything that's left behind is really fragmented. So they're, while they're only vulnerable, they've been kind of downgraded to vulnerable from endangered, which is a good sign. Yeah. But they're still in quite a lot of trouble.
Is that all of your...
That is all of my things. So we're going to have those three species, probably in something similar to Aldro's hummingbird house, with kind of 3 different viewing areas with their different ecosystems. So one's going to be kind of lots of cloud foresty plants, lots of kind of humidity, try and make it look nice and misty for the colourful pufflegs. You can have your kind of deeper rainforest for the black inca, and a nice little mangrove for the mangrove hummingbirds as well. Right, so that's me done. So over to you, Steph.
Thank you very much. So, the one that I've chosen, I was like, well, it's my first ever plant species going to go in this really cool zoo botanical gardens. Logically makes sense to have my very favourite tree. So that's what I've gone for. So, because you know me so well and you love me so much, you know what my favourite tree is.
Yes.
So do you want to tell the listeners what my favourite tree is? Been dating for a year now, so it'll be a bit weird if you didn't know, wouldn't it? That would be pretty out of order, I think.
Is it a strangler fig?
Yeah!
Yes!
I'm shocked, to be honest.
Oh, if only you had an absolutely massive tattoo to give me a bit of a clue.
I do have a tattoo of a strangler fig.
Go on then, tell me about a strangler fig. You told me a little bit before, but
yes,
tell everyone else why you love strangler figs.
So basically, strangler figs, my favourite thing about them is the way that they grow. It's very, very interesting. So they are called hemiepiphytes. Might be pronounced hemiepiphyte. I'm having a stab in the dark, calling it a hemiepiphyte. So epiphytes are plants that grow on other plants without being parasitic. So what happens is a seed of a strangler fig lands on a tree, which might have like a little pocket of, soil or dead plant matter, something like that, tucked away between its branches, and it starts growing. And it starts putting down tendrils and putting down roots and going towards the ground. And so that's the first half of its life, basically. It's just an epiphyte growing on this tree, not hurting it in any way. And then suddenly boom, the roots go down to the soil. And the reason that's so bad is because, well, for the tree it's growing on, is because it's then going to take away all of its nutrients. So all the soil, it's going to leach all of the nutrients from the soil and grow really big and strong, while the tree inside starts to slowly die. So when you get mature strangler figs, you get these incredible, enormous, lattice-like structures made from all these, the vines that they've been growing confused together. So it's just this incredible lattice of tree material growing over this other tree. And once that tree in the middle rots away and dies, it's completely hollow. You can go inside and look up and see all the light coming in through these gaps. They're just absolutely amazing. They can get enormous. They get, there's one species gets up to 100 feet tall, and you find them in rainforests and tropical, subtropical regions all over the world. So yeah, my thinking was, one, my favourite tree, so it should be there. And two, there's so many animal species that rely on this tree, and so it would actually make a really good addition to lots of different animal enclosures.
Immediate question. You say the seed kind of lands on a tree.
Yep.
How's that seed get there? Where's that seed coming from?
So they are pollinated by loads and loads of different animals. Flying foxes will do it in Australia. They eat the fruit and then poop it out, and then it lands in a tree. But also primates and I think almost all fig trees have relationships with wasps. So it's called obligate mutualism with fig wasps. I wrote it down. Obligate mutualism. It doesn't really mean anything to me. But basically, figs are pollinated by fig wasps. And
yeah, because the wasps like crawl inside and then die. So when you're eating a fig, you're eating dead wasps.
They crawl inside the fruit. And then they also eat the flowers. They parasitize it, and then they sort of explode out of the fruit. So if you eat a fig, you may or may not be eating corpses. You don't know. Well, you probably do know. You probably buy it from a shop and there's probably no wasps in there. But if you just picked one off a tree...
But you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
I found a caterpillar in a bag of lettuce once.
That feels like a different story.
It's the same thing. Fig wasps can only reproduce in fig flowers. So these fig trees, they provide shelter to birds. God damn it. I've said that word so many times in my life. Why did I say it wrong now? They provide shelter to birds, mammals, reptiles, and invertebrates. So generally every fig species depends on a single species of wasp for pollination. That's enough about wasps now, I'm bored of them. So figs are often considered to be a potential keystone species in communities of fruit-eating animals. So a keystone species is something that has a disproportionately large effect on its natural environment given its abundance. So there can be very few of them, but they have this enormous impact on protecting the surrounding environment and creating habitats, giving source of food, just loads. So they're really, really important trees. And just to clarify, because normally when I tell people, strangler fig's my favourite tree, look, I have a tattoo of a strangler fig, hey, this is how it grows. Normally people are like, oh, is that like a deep and meaningful metaphor for something in your life and that's why you got it tattooed on you? No, I just really like it.
It's deep and meaningful because you're the strangler fig in my life, because you've wrapped yourself around me and I'm slowly dying inside as a result.
Long may it continue.
I'm the empty, hollow husk that you are slowly choking the life out of.
It is my perfect relationship. So yeah, there's no deep and meaningful there. I just thought it was cool and got a tattoo of it.
Have you seen one in the wild when you've been on your various adventures? Have you ever seen a strangler
Funny you should ask, Connor. So in my time in the Amazon rainforest, I of course saw strangler figs and just thought they were the most beautiful thing ever. But also when I was in the Daintree rainforest in Australia, I went there a couple of times. Once was when I was doing university as an undergrad, before I dropped out. And then again when I was back doing my masters. Didn't drop out of that one. And Yeah, I just adore them. So I actually made a whole YouTube video about my little adventure in the Daintree rainforest, and I filmed stranglerfig there and talk about them a bit. So if you want to see that, my YouTube channel is Step into Nature, and you can see my little vlog of looking for cassowaries in the Daintree rainforest. That's some cross promotion there. Get used to that.
You're so efficient.
And so where you might recognise them from is if you, like me, are a huge fan of Angelina Jolie in the Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie of 2001. It was lots of stranglerfigs growing over the temples of Angkor, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. It's in Cambodia. Mm-hmm. And they're basically the famous images you see where it's like these tumble down ancient buildings and they've got these massive trees, roots growing all over them. They're stranglerfigs. So my tattoo, actually, I always forget, has a little temple-y building, because my tattoo artist, when she designed it, was like, oh, I just saw them online, I thought they were cool, so I put one in. And I was like, you know what, I like it for scale. Mm-hmm. So kept it in. What
is the tallest one in the world? How tall?
1 second. Alexa. I am going to Google that though, because I do want to know. Tallest strangler. This is the kind of live action excitement you can expect for Planty Planty Zoo Zoo in the world. And while that loads, because our Wi-Fi is shocking, I'll just continue doing my thing. The next section I wrote down was my personal experience. So we got ahead there. We've covered the Daintree, we've covered the Amazon. What we haven't covered is Cairns Library. So Cairns is placed in Australia. It's literally paradise in terms of the natural environment. You've got tropical rainforest, Great Barrier Reef, got waterfalls, absolutely everything. And then you also have, you know, the modern city. So you've got like vintage shops there and restaurants and boutiques and things. I love it. I love it so much. If I had to live somewhere other than Bristol, I'd go Cairns.
This is Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, brought to you by the Cairns Tourism Board. Yeah, so basically, in Cairns, they have a library, congrats, and they have a very, very big, very, very old fig there, right outside the library. And there was a big hoo-ha in 2020 because they had these enormous flying fox colonies living in this tree, and it was all in the news that I think they lost like 2/3 of their flying fox population or something. It was enormous because of the severe heat waves. And then the council decided to relocate all these flying foxes from this massive tree because the tree was dying. And it's, you know, a protected tree. And when I heard about that, I was very upset about it because, you know, there's all kinds of problems with relocation of wildlife, as I'm sure you know, Connor. You know, just because you say, oh, this patch of land or whatever is now for this animal, the animal's not going to necessarily know that. And there might be loads of issues you haven't looked at. So I tried to look up how the bats were doing, but I couldn't find any information on it. So maybe that's a future follow-up. But the tree has recovered because part of the reason they did it was because this tree was declining. So now since 2020, so last 3 years, it's got way more healthy, and they're not going to have to cut it down, and it's not going to collapse in the library, destroying knowledge. It's just going to carry on. So that's a really cool thing. I thought I'd include that. So, in terms of what species to include in the zoo, I narrowed it down to one of 3. Same as you. Isn't that weird? Maybe I'll have all 3 then. The first one is Ficus aurea. So most stranglerfig species, their common name is just stranglerfig in any area. So, but this one is also called the golden fig or the Florida stranglerfig. So it is native to Florida, but it's also native to the Caribbean and those South American countries. This is the one that can get up to 100 feet tall. And then here's some knowledge of pollinators for you. In Costa Rica, there's emerald toucanets and resplendent quetzals. They help pollinate that tree, and they also benefit from it providing shelter and things like that. So that's what I was thinking. Costa Rica and our enclosure, in your hummingbird enclosure with the one from Costa Rica, we could put Ficus aurea. You know? So if I did have to choose one of the 3, I'd probably go for that one now. You have to talk instead of nod, no one can hear. How have we completely lined this up and made it really cohesive? Completely by accident?
We're just so in sync. And also in Belize, you've got black howler monkeys. So they rely on them as well. So some interesting knowledge. The fruit of the Ficus aurea was a food source for Native Americans and early colonizers. And apparently it can still be eaten now, but it doesn't tend to be. I don't know why. Maybe it just tastes bad, and we got better. We got like KFC and stuff now. Why would you? And things that are better for the environment now that you can eat. So why would you? The Native Americans, they would use the aerial roots to make lashings, arrows, bowstrings, fishing lines, things like that. And it's also been, parts of the plant have been used in traditional medicine in the Bahamas and Florida. So that's probably the one I would go for. But I was also keen on Ficus benjamina because, first of all, we have one.
Do we?
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
Which one do you think it is? Come on, Connor. Look around you. Look around, look around. We watched Hamilton last night. Carry on. Keep looking. He's looking at the monstera. Literally not a clue. Eyeing up a fake plant from IKEA. What a genius. So it's actually the bonsai.
Oh, wow.
In the corner. Yeah. And he's thriving by the radiator for some reason.
Not quite 100 foot tall.
Not yet. It's going to stop being a bonsai. I'm just going to plant a strangler fig now. But you can get bonsai curtain figs. So curtain figs are where the tree's sort of, it's like partially fallen over, and then you've got all these tendrils growing down like a curtain. You get bonsai ones of them, so I'm desperate for one of them now.
Tell me about the plant.
It's Valentine's Day next month. Other than the fact that we have one, it can remove formaldehyde from the environment. So taxidermists, if you want to get more. And also can cause allergic reactions, especially if you're allergic to latex.
Oh.
Because you can turn latex from figs into gum, chewing gum. So if you've got a latex allergy, this isn't the plant for you.
So taxidermists, yes. Latex allergists, no.
Absolutely not, no.
There we go.
This is a safety announcement. So that was the second one. And the third one, Ficus thonningii, which I pronounced correctly probably. So this one I really liked because it's got some really, just really cool like cultural stuff and traditional medicine uses. Just makes it quite interesting. I think, you know, at the zoo and botanical gardens, very important, interpretation, getting people interested in plants through like their relationship with cultures is very important. So this does this very well. So it's used in Zimbabwe to treat respiratory infections, bronchitis, flu, colds, pneumonia. And then there's a tree in Nairobi. So they're called magumo trees, and it seems to be this species, Ficus thonningii, but sometimes it's mixed with another one, which I didn't write down. But these trees are considered shrines and sacred places to the Kikuyu community, and it cannot be cut down unless a ceremony takes place to appease their god. So at the moment, they're doing a big northern water collector tunnel project in Nairobi. I'm sure you've heard all about it. They need to cut through some of these trees, which is very sad. But the government is being pretty respectful of the beliefs of different groups of people. And so they said before the contractors can cut them down, they can do their cleansing ceremonies first. The elders that do it are older than 80 years old, and they are called Athuri and Matura Nguru. So in terms of other botanical gardens that house them, house strangler figs in general. There's one in the Palm House at Kew. There's one in a botanical garden in Bhubaneswar, India. There's one in Brisbane Botanic Gardens. And actually, I did get a picture up to show you this because it's really cool.
Oh, wow. So was that a tree initially and then the strangler fig's taken it over and incorporated the fence into it?
Yeah.
And kind of so just taken over the fence as well?
Yeah, so it's like a metal railing. So strangler fig has grown over a tree and it's taken over the railing that the tree was up against.
That kind of looks like post-apocalyptic, like nature taking back control.
I think that's why I like them so much. Because when you do see them with buildings, like Googling strangler figs and then buildings is one of my favourite things because it's like how the world would be if humans disappeared.
Is that just there's only 4 or 5 botanic gardens that actually have them?
There's I think they're grown quite easily, especially in these warmer climates in botanical gardens. These are just the ones I could find online. But one I want to talk about is at Sydney's Centennial Park, where they're actually doing this really cool experimental project thing of like deliberately growing them in over a tree that's dying. So they have a tree in their park, it's dying, and they were like, it's to put strangler figs on it. So they planted 4 on it. Seems a bit mean.
4?
4 baby strangler figs.
That feels incredibly harsh.
Yeah.
Just being like, you're having a bad time anyway. Let's just make this worse for you.
Let's make your death slower.
Okay, what's the point of this? Why are they doing this?
So,
is it at least for a good reason?
Yeah, well, they're attempting to replicate nature to create a new and unique attraction in an urban parkland setting. And I do think it would do that. I mean, it is kind of taking this really cool rainforesty thing that happens. And although they are sort of agents of death in that way, they have actually been some studies. There was a big tornado-y, hurricane-y thing went through some area, and they found that the trees that had strangler figs growing on them, there were more left standing than had been uprooted. Whereas for trees that didn't have them, more had obviously been uprooted. So it's like, you know, they do offer a degree of protection as well. So, but yeah, then they do slowly sap the life out of you, just like this relationship. So yeah, so it may take up to 20 years for it to take over its host tree. So we'll go visit then, 2043.
So that's quite cool. I guess that's the point of it, in that people can go back time after time, and each time they go back, they'll see a little bit of change and a bit more strangler fig and a bit less dying tree.
Well, exactly. You can track it, and when they become established, I mean, I've seen an incredible curtain fig tree in Australia. They're so cool to look at. They're just absolutely beautiful. I'm obsessed with them. And then this brings me to my final point, which is in terms of my botanical garden, or our botanical garden zoo, sorry, ours. What would I want? So first of all, it's obviously going to be a very dramatic display because I want established ones. We can't uproot them and plant them. Obviously, it will take like hundreds of years for them to be really cool. Luckily, I'm going to give myself the magical ability to just speed up plant growth.
Okay, so it's not just suspension of disbelief, it's magic powers now.
Powers.
Okay.
This is my zoo, and my magical power is plants grow. This is our zoo, and my magical power is plants grow faster. This is like when you moved in with me. Our flat. So obviously I want to incorporate the fact that they grow in buildings, so we can have some really cool building displays. And I looked online to see if there's any zoo that does have like a sort of strangler fig display, and I found one place. It's Jacksonville Zoo. Do you know it?
I know of Jacksonville Zoo.
Yeah. So they have the Land of the Tiger, where they have Malayan tigers and Sumatran tigers. They haven't got a real strangler fig, but they have created a really interesting exhibit display where they've basically built, constructed a fake strangler fig, and the tiger can go walk around inside it, climb up it. It actually looks really cool. And I think it said they'd won awards for the whole area design and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I was thinking, you know, obviously because I've got these magical powers, we can make a real one. So strangler figs are now in our zoo. We've got 3 different species. We're going to have to keep a list of things, so as our exhibits grow, we know what they look like. But yeah, we can use them for...
Okay, so we've got 3. We just need to work out where we're going to put them now. So we can have one in the mangrove exhibit for the hummingbirds. Means we'll have to probably increase the size of our hummingbird exhibit a little bit to fit it in.
Luckily, space is, you know, space is no object. You know what? We have loads of space. So don't worry about it. We'll have to think about how people are going to get around our absolutely enormous zoo. Steam train. Should do steam train.
Yeah. So that's a separate episode.
Yeah, we'll come back for transport episode. So that's it, basically. That's the entire thing.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
They sound absolutely amazing. I now really want to see a strangler fig.
Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode and the very first episode of us building our imaginary zoo in the sky. It's not in the sky, it's on the ground, but it's imaginary. And we've got... Hold on, please say stuff. I've been talking for too long.
Right, so that was the first ever episode of Planty Planty Zoo Zoo.
Yay!
Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to keep up to date with everything going on, find out when the next episode comes out, etc., you can follow us on kind of all the main socials. We're on Instagram at Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, Twitter at Planty Planty Zoo, and that's it.
Yeah, we might end up other places, but you'll find that out from our website. So if you want to find all things related to Planty Planty Zoo Zoo, you can head over to plantyplantzyzoo.com. And we'll be posting episodes there and the links to all the different platforms you can listen to them on. And I'll also be linking to all of the different socials we have. And there's also a newsletter, so you can sign up to that, and it just means that when a new podcast episode comes out, you get it straight to your inbox.
And if you've enjoyed this episode, wherever you've listened to it, please do us a favour and like, review, subscribe. Let us know if you thought it was any good. Let us know if you thought it was absolutely terrible.
No, we have fragile egos, so if you are going to do that, do it constructively.
It's a very valid point. So thank you so much. Let us know what you thunk.
Let us know what you thwunk.
And we'll hopefully see you next week. Bye.
That was perfect.
That was delightful.